Hello there, Rip City. Welcome into a Tournament Thursday edition of Courtside Monday, if that's not confusing at all, right? Courtside Monday on a Thursday with tons of college hoops going on, but we're here and we're going to have some fun. Usually, Courtside Monday is obviously on Mondays, but this week, the Blazers had to readjust their schedule. They had to move the Wizards over from Tuesday to Monday, and I had already reached out to the guest joining me today, and I was like, I'm going to feel so bad because I'm going to have to cancel, and I didn't want to be that guy. So I was like, hey, are you willing to do Thursday? Because if you are, my producer said we can do Thursday. He was like, yeah, we can do Thursday. So joining me today from the Blazers Uprise, Tori Jones. Tori, welcome in to the station.
Man, it's cool to be here. I was here about 10 years ago when we had an NBA mock draft, and it was with Chad Doing and Wheels, and all I remember is I took Harry Giles for the Milwaukee Bucks, and Chad Doing did not like it, man. So this is my second time back. Hopefully, it goes a little better than that draft pick.
Hey, that's a good story. You got to do a mock draft with Wheels. I mean, Come on, that's pretty awesome. So I want to before we get into the nitty gritty and talk hoops, I want to talk about you for a second. So you're a basketball junkie. You played college ball, right?
Yep.
Okay, and then tell us about that. What was that experience like?
Oh man, so we have a running joke in my community that you don't say my point per game average because it was only 2.2.
You can still take LeVar Ball though.
Oh, now I can.
I didn't want to be the one to say that, but I mean,
yeah, man, it was a good experience. It was a cool experience. Just going and playing for a year. Played out in Tri-Cities.
Okay.
I will say it was a little tougher being on the other side of the state of Washington, man. Out in Tri-Cities is just completely different, and it was just a good experience just to do it, just to live it. But man, it's a lot of work. That's the thing that people don't realize with JUCO players, man. These are some talented guys. Right now, of course, we're watching March Madness, some D1 guys, but you see all these little mid-majors, and they all have talented players. And that's the thing you don't realize going into playing for a small college. There's so many hoopers out there that can really play the game well. And, it was a challenge, but it was definitely a good experience.
Hey, man, people can pick on you for your 2-point per game average all they want because guys like me, my point per game average in college was the same as the logo of the school I went to, a 0, right? I didn't play, so I got nothing to say. I think making it that far is cool. I tried out. I was a baseball player mostly. I tried out for the Oregon baseball team because when I was at Oregon, they had just brought it back. Obviously, I didn't make it, but even trying out was like, gosh, the talent here is through the roof. So, man, don't sell yourself short. 2 points per game. Doesn't matter what level, that's pretty cool. And obviously, you only got to know ball. You got to know how to play ball, too, which is pretty cool. I wish my profile could be me dunking on a hoop, okay? If it is, it's like my child's little Nerf hoop or something because Dad doesn't have hops anymore. Never did. But it is it's pretty cool. And I'm glad to have you in here. And then from that, I want to talk about Uprise because part of the reason I wanted to have you on is because the community you've built there, you guys do all your stuff, plenty of content all year long. And there's a lot of people, it's the same people who go like, oh, I could host sports radio. I'm sorry, you couldn't talk for an hour. You'd be lost after 5 minutes. A lot of people would. Yeah. And I say that as a person who the very first time Chad had me fill in for Justin or him and do an entire show by myself, I was like lost. 10 minutes in, I'm like, I just went through all my content. Like, what do I do now? It's hard. And there's a lot of, if I had time, I could start a YouTube page and I could get followers too. No, it takes time. It takes effort. And so what led to you deciding, hey, this is what we want to do. I want to get some buddies in. I want to start this YouTube page and just talk Blazers.
Yeah, man. It's just a love for the team and a love for the game and just finding an outlet to share that love with, right? And our platform, it's me and my co-host Eric Brandt, and we're just diehard Blazer fans. And we met each other before we started the podcast, and we would have long conversations about the CBA and hypothetical trades and draft prospects and all this nerdy stuff, right? But it was like, man, this would be maybe a good podcast. Maybe we could talk about this. Maybe we could reach an hour of time there. But now we do 2-hour post-game shows after every game and just love to break it down and love to get into the details of it. So Yeah, it was after the 2019 Western Conference Finals run when we started.
Okay.
So maybe we're bad luck because it hasn't gone as well since then. I wish we started a year earlier.
You're responsible for COVID, is what you
Yeah.
just said. But no, I applaud you, man, because I do some like I've tried the Twitch, I've tried
Mhm.
streaming. Like I got so much on my plate. It's hard to do, and I don't think people respect that enough. And you, I'm bringing you behind enemy lines here. All right, I know how you are with me, the traditional media. Right, I'm just having fun with you. But no, it is funny to you get over here, you get in the studio, and I told you this when you got in, man. This like why I wanted to talk to you is because you know hoops, right? And sometimes people can get reputations,
Mhm.
right? Oh, this guy, he's just negative, or he's this or that. And I get it too. Oh, Burkhardt, why you got to say that? You're so negative about the team. No, I just call it how it is. And there's too many people out there, Tori, who just lean into what they want to believe. Like
Mhm.
I was bringing this up on last night's postgame show about Chauncey Billups, right? There are so many people out there who just hate Chauncey Billups that if he ever does anything good in a game, it was oh yeah, it was luck. It didn't happen, right? And it I find you to be the same way because you, like me, boy howdy, there is a long receipt list of how many times and I say you too because I've seen yours too, have just unloaded on DeAndre Ayton, right?
Yep.
For his bad games.
Yep.
But I've also seen you and myself go, gosh darn it, that was a good game from DA, right? So your fanaticism is why you're there. Like
Mhm.
if you're polarizing, it's because, dude, all you want at the end of the day is you want your favorite team to be good.
Yep.
It's like me and you, we were talking about this. I brought this guy in to talk hoops, and for like 15 minutes leading up to the show, we were just talking about the San Francisco 49ers, okay? Like, because what? I just want the Niners to be good. Michael Shacker, who's our producer, who's not pictured, he's at the home studio, also a 49er fan, so we have to deal
Nice.
with Chad talking the junk on Brock Purdy. But I'm sorry if I caught you off guard. The only point is I want to say, dude, at the end of the day, all Torrey wants, he wants the Blazers to be good, right? You want your favorite your favorite team. You want them to win. You want them to be good. You want them to get to the playoffs. And you brought up something really, really good. And this is where I want to hit on first when we start talking Blazers, is you were talking about the Blazers being good. You were talking about how you kind of see what they're trying to build. You see the light at the end of the tunnel. The fear is, and this is the fear with a lot of Blazer fans, are they going to be good enough to be what they were, 6, 7 years ago, which was 5 seed, 4 seed, 5. Yeah, you're making the playoffs, but you never really have that true hook that says, yeah, you're a contender. So I want to get right into that with you. What do you think the Blazers have to do from where they are right now to get where you feel comfortable that this team is a contending basketball team?
Ultimately, I think the biggest question hovering over this team long term is who's going to be their number one guy.
Yeah.
Obviously, in the past, you had it with Damian Lillard, and the problem was when you had Dame, the rest of the team wasn't built well enough around him. Now it's kind of the opposite because you're coming out of a rebuild. You have a lot of really, really good role players and guys that you hope can become stars, but there's still the question mark of, will Shaden Sharp become that level of player? Will Scoot Henderson become that
Right.
level of player? Maybe Denny Avdia. He's looked like a star in the month of March, averaging 22 points, 10
It's
boards,
so
5
good.
assists. Phenomenal numbers in March. But, can Denny Avdia do that for a full season? And if the next number one player for this team is not on the roster, then how do you get him? And of course, there's two different ways. You got the NBA draft, and with how well the Blazers are playing this year compared to last year, they're going to have a lower draft pick unless they get really lucky. Then you get the
Right.
best of both worlds. But if they can't get it through the draft, then all right, you're probably going to have to trade for that player if it's not already on the roster. So I just think it's a different type of team because you have a lot of defensive pieces that weren't really here when Damian Lillard was here. You have a
Yeah.
lot of defensive pieces that can also do some things offensively because as much as I love Maurice Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu, those guys are a little bit limited offensively. Now you got Tamani Kamara making threes, shooting a decent three ball this year and making some plays off the dribble.
Yeah.
You got Denny Avdia with his passing, being able to push and transition. You got these two-way wings that are really hard to find. I think Tamani Kamara should be an all-defensive player this year.
Should be in the combo, right?
Yeah,
Holy smokes.
and for how little money he's making and how young he is, that's a really, really good piece moving forward. And the reason the Blazers traded for Denny Avdia is because it's really hard to find young wings on a good contract that can dribble, shoot, pass, score in isolation. So they've built out a roster filled with really good role players. The question is, who's going to be that star? Because in the NBA, you got to have a star.
Yeah.
You know, you got Donovan Mitchell in Cleveland right now. They're the one seed in the East. He's a top 15 player in the league. He's been really good this year. And then they got other stars on top of him. You got SGA in OKC. You got Jason Tatum in Boston. All these top teams have a star. And if you want to look at a team that took a major leap this year that was really bad last season, the Detroit Pistons right now are 6th in the East. Last year, everyone was saying, you don't want the Blazers to be like the Pistons. The Blazers could be even worse. But the Pistons have taken a major jump due in part to they had good role players, but then Cade Cunningham took that leap to stardom.
He's a massive jump.
Yeah.
Massive jump.
So that's the biggest question for them is who's going to – is Shaedon Sharpe going to take that leap long term? Is Scoot Henderson going to take that leap long term? And if not, who's going to be that star and how do they get him?
Yeah, and then you look at a guy like Shea, and you're sitting there like, year 3, like the jump is still possible. It's not. Sometimes I think people want like an instant gratification. Like every rookie has to be a Tim Duncan or a Shaquille O'Neal, right, or a LeBron James to just come in and be absolutely great from day one. I am more concerned with, are we seeing the developmental stuff? Like for Scoot, for instance, like I think Scoot looks night and day different than he did last year. That doesn't mean that he's not showing me things that, needs to improve that a little bit, but you see improvement. Shea, you've seen improvements with offense. I've just the consistency part of it. Mm-hmm. Like to me, that guy has all the talent in the world. He should be putting up 25 a night. Like why? I mean, I guess that's a problem with a modern NBA, but okay, you're settling for 3-pointers when you can rim graze at will. And you mentioned a name there. It's because he has the athleticism of a Tracy McGrady and he has the handles of an Al-Farouq Aminu. And that hurts you from being able to drive to the rim a little bit.
Yeah.
But I think like Shea needs to be the guy. Like I think if I look at this roster, and let's look outside of the roster in a second too. But like if I'm looking at this roster, I think the guy is Shea that you want to be the star. Because again, a versatile 2-guard. We've seen teams built in that vein before. I think the prowess to be that 20-point per game guy is there. Who's it for you? Is it Shea? Is it Denny? Is it someone else? If you're looking just inside the roster, not outside of it.
I think Shaedon Sharpe has the highest ceiling on the team just because of what he can do athletically. You just don't find that. And being 6'5" with a 7-foot wingspan, that's just a good mix. And then he's shown flashes of really being able to create his own shot. I think the biggest thing for him becoming more consistent is just becoming a better 3-point shooter. Because on the season, he's shooting, if I recall correctly, 31, 32%, something like that. And the problem is when he's struggling to shoot from 3, defenders don't get out all the way on him. It's a lot harder for him to drive when he's not making threes. When he is making threes, defenders are closing out harder. They're playing him tighter on the perimeter. It's easier for him to get downhill and use that athleticism. So I think his inconsistency can just be boiled down to his inconsistency with his 3-point shot. So if he can improve that, I think that's when he could ultimately take a leap. But it's definitely been a struggle this year for him making 3-point shots consistently. I think in the month of March, he's down around 24% right now, which is a bummer, man, because he shot better in February. So hopefully he can figure that out.
Yeah, his season numbers right now, the 31.4.
Yep.
So yeah, it's he needs to improve that. But the thing is, I do feel like when he shoots that ball, he is getting to a point where I feel confident that when he takes that shot, it's going in. It's just a matter of getting the consistency where that actually happens. And I feel like when we talk about players progressing, I didn't feel like he had that shot in him a year ago. So again, I think that's part of the maturation. I hope it gets better. All right, we're going to take a quick little break here on a Courtside Monday on a Thursday. We're going to have to rename this bad boy. But if you want to join the conversation, head on over to youtube.com, type in Rip City Radio, join the chat there. 503-248-0620 is that telephone number as well. Chris Burkhardt here with my special guest today, Tori from Blazers Uprise. We'll be back after the break right here on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Welcome back into Courtside Monday on a Thursday. We moved the things around because I wanted to make sure I did not backtrack on my guests today. I would have felt awful. I did have to move some other people around, but we made sure we got you in. It's Tori Jones joining me today, the founder and host of the Blazers Uprise YouTube channel. So doing some great work over there. And you and I had a good conversation. And I'll tell you this: you said you always want to see behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And I said, hey, it's not glamorous. Radio is very, very interesting. I mean, you should have seen the looks I got when I was like, can we put a camera in here and try to do YouTube? It is 2025. Like, camera in a radio station? What's going on? But it is funny because the amount of good conversations that happen in commercial breaks, because you and I were talking, and it's like, yeah, yeah, and you admitted you're like, yeah, a lot of people will be like, oh, Tori, you're so negative all the time. Why are you so negative? I go, the funny part about that is I've had people throughout my career be like, Burkhardt, why are you so positive all the time? Like, do you ever say anything bad about your team? It's You're not going to please them all. Is the point,
Mhm.
or you're not. So you just got to be true to yourself and get your topics out there, which is something I think both of us do for better and worse. It depends on the day. It is just funny how fandom can be sometimes, man. I didn't run over your dog or anything. I just said that this player is not very good. Like another one you brought up earlier. You said. For as much as I like Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu, and I kid you not, I loved those guys.
Mhm.
I absolutely loved them. Yeah, I would say nonstop, and I still say it to this day. Like in that point in time, I was like, I knew that the Blazers were a contender the minute Mo Harkless and Al-Farouq Aminu would have been your sixth and seventh guy coming off the bench, not in
Yep.
your starting lineup. And that was I loved him.
Yep.
I loved him. Mo Harkless was great. Al-Farouq Aminu, how can you not like Al-Farouq Aminu? But you just gotta be realistic sometimes, right?
Yeah, I mean they carried a whole defense. Dame's job was to carry that offense. Those guys carried that defense, and they competed. Man, that's what I appreciate the most with Blazer players, and I think this city loves guys that compete. Aminu, Harkless, Ed Davis was a fan favorite
Oh,
for that
for
reason.
sure.
Kamara, Avdia are becoming fan favorites for those reasons as well. We just want competitors.
Yeah, it's funny because I had this topic last night after the game about how I think Chris Murray and Dwop Reith are starting to get into that same legend status because they just go out there and they work. They
Mhm.
give you full out effort all the time, even if they make their mistakes or they're not the best players. Like they just hustle, dude, and that says something. And you're right, man. Like Ed Davis, I don't think there'll ever be like another Ed Davis in Portland, a guy who was just your average everyday basketball player, but definition of hard hat and lunch pail. Let's go to work, and people loved him.
Yep.
Loved him. He was pretty awesome. All right, some another thing you and I talked about, Tori, as we were leading up to the show, was about how I think a lot of people want like an instant gratification, right? And you look at rookies throughout the year, there have been rookies who were phenomenal right out of the gate. Like Tim Duncan was an all-star, right? Shaquille O'Neal was phenomenal. We know LeBron James, what he was his rookie year. But there's also guys like what Kobe Bryant, what he averaged, like 7.5 points his
Mhm.
rookie year, took some time. Tracy McGrady, who I love, one of my favorite players ever, took 3 years or so to get going. And sometimes you got to understand that the process can take time. And so I wanted to get your thought on that process and more specifically, the process with Scoot Henderson. Like, what have you kind of seen from him that you like, that you don't like? Where have you seen some of his improvements? And what are your takes on, year two of Scoot?
Man, I think Scoot this year has improved upon everything that he needed to, where it's not like he's going to be fully consistent yet, or he's not close to a finished product yet. He just turned 21 years of age.
Wild.
And this is what you're talking about when it comes to fandom. Everybody wants instant gratification. So Scoot struggles out of the gate his rookie season, and the noise around him I thought was ridiculous. So much bus talk. It was frustrating because he was 19 years old coming into the league, and the two positions that need the most time to get their feet under them in the NBA is point guards and centers.
Yeah.
Point guards, you got to run a team, and it's not like the team was all that good. It was a little disjointed last year. It was they had their offensive struggles too. It's not necessarily an easy situation for a 19-year-old point guard to come in and run the ship. So he, it's well documented. He had his massive struggles last year, but I think what he improved this year, number one, is, and I think this is an underrated thing, his left hand. he is finishing so many more lay-ins around the rim with his left hand than he did last year. There was numerous times as a rookie where Scoot would try and finish with his right hand and get blocked, or it'd be a tough finish where he could have just went up with his left. And now you're seeing him finish tough lanes with his left hand, and it's made him a better finisher at the rim. That's why his rim finishing
Mhm.
numbers are up. And then also his three-point shot, I think it looks better this year. Obviously, the three-point percentage is better as well. He's right around 36% right now and went on that tear for a couple of months of January and
Right.
February.
And I'm no jump shot mechanic, but one thing I noticed with him this year, before you continue, is just that he does such a better job of getting his feet
Yep.
square under him when he shoots. And if you watch him from the hips down, you can almost tell whether it's going to be a make or a miss because he still gets a little janky hips down.
Mhm.
But if he is square right under his shoulders, it tends to be a pretty darn good looking shot. And that's one thing I've noticed.
Yeah, no, I've noticed that too, and I also think his follow through is more consistent.
Yeah.
He kind of popped his elbow out a little bit last year when he try and follow through. Now it's a lot more straightforward. This is the type of stuff that I love to obsess about and just break down the film and slow it down and just look at shooting forms in slow motion. But I definitely think the base, what you said, as well as just his follow through is cleaner, smoother, more consistent. The rhythm of his shot, you can just tell the
Yeah.
rhythm of his shot is better. So I think those were two big things. But then I also think last year he had a few bad moments where he wouldn't run back in transition on defense or would kind of jog back in transition. And I think the team as a whole has been better in that regard. But I think Scoot's shown the biggest improvement. His intensity on the defensive end, the way he's trying to be a pest defending the ball, but then also just sprinting back in transition, right? And just giving effort because that's a huge part of defense is just giving effort. And he's started to have a positive impact defensively,
Mhm.
which unfortunately for the Blazers has always been a question with their guards. So it's nice to have a point guard that can do some things offensively that you can put in the game and trust that he's going to have some good defensive games. So I think those are the main things that I've really seen him improve. I also think he's just picking his spots better.
Mhm.
Last year, he seemed to try and force a lot of things with his athleticism because he could get away with it in the G League. When you're in the NBA and playing against the most athletic players on the planet, the best basketball players on the planet, you can't get away with some of the things that you used to be able to get away
Yeah.
with. And it seemed like he still tried to play the same way, but ultimately he's adjusted, and I think he's doing a much better job picking his spots, when to drive, what shots to shoot around the rim, and so forth. So that's some of the biggest improvement from him, and it's been a joy to watch him improve this year after all the noise about him being a bust last season.
Yeah, and when you talk about like decision making and having to feel like one thing I've noticed too, and it was really apparent last year, and it reared its ugly head kind of early this year, but I can't tell you the last time I've seen it. But like last year, he would constantly drive to the rim, get up in the air, and he's in the air, and then he's like, "Oh, am I going to finish or am I going to pass?"
Yeah.
And then it would lead to turnovers, and he's not doing that as much. He has an idea, and the one he's been doing a lot lately is getting up in the air but knowing where everyone is.
Mhm.
So he's throwing that bounce pass back out. Like he's doing a lot of little things. And something you said too about watching things in slow mo, and it reminded me of like back when I played baseball. Coach would always tell you just loosen up because if you're tight in the batter's box, you're never going to hit. Everything's going to be slow. Nothing's going to be fluid. And I go back to watching like slow mo video of Damian Lillard, who is a phenomenal shooter. And what I always notice is even in slow mo, his wrist was always so loose.
Mhm.
Everything through he was secure, but everything was fluid. There was no tightness. And I think that's kind of what you're talking about with Scoot, seeing just a little more fluidity in that jump shot brings that consistency.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And the jump shot's the key for Scoot because when it's what I said with Sharp earlier in the show, when defenders are out on the perimeter, it's easier to beat them off the dribble. So that just opens up his game, getting to the rim, collapsing the defense, making plays for others if he can make that 3-point shot.
Yeah, well, if you averaged 2 points per game in college, that must have meant you were a really good defender, though, right?
Uh, those were some good athletes, man. I struggled. I struggled a little
Hey,
bit with those athletes.
No,
Yeah.
I'm just saying that because when I play pickup ball or we go run at the rec, my shot was busted. Big shout out to my buddy Justin. He turned me into a good basketball player by the time we left the University of Oregon. But I was like, you know what? If I can't score, I'm going to make sure the guy I'm guarding doesn't. right? And I took pride in trying to be a really good defender. And so the reason I bring that up is not to say I was good, even though my nickname was the Kobe Stopper. That's a running joke on this show. We had one guy who we always played against at the rec center who was a giant Laker fan. Favorite player
Mhm.
was Kobe. And I always got manned up on him, so they just started calling me the Kobe Stopper, even though he torched me every single time. But it's just funny. The reason I bring up defense, Tori, is how how nice is it from your perspective? Who you again you have reiterated more than once how much you love just watching a game and analyzing all the little stuff.
Mhm.
So how nice is it to see a guy like Tumani Kamara who just takes so much pride on the defensive side of the ball, and you could tell that he's good enough, as you said, to probably be an All NBA defender, or at least get votes. And you can tell that he still wants to be better on that end. Like, how nice is it to see that? And what have you seen from him?
Man, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, man. The his instincts are really, really good. Just the way he can read plays, especially taking charges. That's what everybody notices, right? Because he leads the league in
He has
charges.
more charges than some teams
I know, we hear that
personally.
all the
Like, that's
time. Like
wild.
he has 10 more charges than the team they're
Right?
playing tonight. Uh, and then drawing offensive fouls where he's fighting through screens and he gets a moving screen call. But a you have to try and fight through screens to get a moving screen call. If you just kind of die on a screen or you're not giving effort trying to fight through that screen, more often than not, you're not going to get that call. So part of it's instincts, but part of it's just the effort that he gives consistently night in, night out. You can go into a game and know that Tamani's going to play really, really hard on that side of the floor. And it's part of the reason why he gets a lot of offensive fouls because he's guarding an offensive player 94 feet. And we've seen stars get frustrated with the way that he's guarding them, and they'll start to give him a forearm. And then he'll sell the contact a little bit, pick up an offensive foul, which is great because you want to pick up offensive fouls on other team stars. That's how you get them out of the game, and that can change the complexion of a game.
Yeah.
So he's just super smart, super instinctual, but then the effort on top of it with, he's 6'7", 6'8" with his tools, moves well. He's just the total package of a defender. Earlier in the year, he had a game where he defended Nikola Jokic really well, and then we saw him hold Tyrese Halliburton to 0 points when he was here in Portland. So it's also the versatility too. He can guard bigs, he can guard guards, he can guard anyone.
Yeah, he had a play in that game last night, Tori, that it's not going to show up on any highlight reel. It's not going to show up in any box score, but it stands out to me because it tells you the kind of player he is. And what it was I can't remember the time in the game. I just remember the play. But he is at the 3-point line, like the Memphis 3-point line. They're getting ready to inbound the ball. There is no reason for him to do what he's about to do. But he kind of jolts and realizes, like, oh, I should go full on this guy. He sprints down and gets on Bane as soon as they inbound the ball and mans him up full court. And it's like, he could have just waited for him to get across the line but he was like, oh, hell no, I'm getting over there. I'm not letting him get across the half court line easy. And it was like that little tiny play shows you, like, no, this guy wants to make stops. And it's so nice to see. I love it. I say this all the time. He is the most fun I've had watching a player play defense since Wes was here.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And he's only getting better. And I don't think, and what gets me excited for him, and I've brought this up on the show multiple times because it's just so important, is last year at the end of the year, he said, I want to work on my offense in the offseason because I don't want to be a guy that coach considers an offensive liability and takes out when we need points. I want to be on the floor all the time. I was like, okay, cool. Everyone says that. Everyone says they want to get better. I did not expect the offensive jump we've seen from him this year. It's been incredible.
Yeah, man, I've loved it. Everybody's going to focus on the 3-point shot because 3-and-D wings are the wave in the NBA, right? Having somebody that can make threes.
Attacks that I love.
Yeah, having somebody that can make threes and play defense is good, but can you do anything else on top of that?
Yeah.
Can you attack that closeout when you start making threes and defenders start running out at you? Can you attack that? Can you get downhill? Can you finish at the rim? Can you make the right play? Nobody's expecting him to average 7 or 8 assists per game, but can you, in the flow of the offense, can you make the right pass? Can you hit a backdoor cutter? That sort of stuff makes it so that he's not an offensive liability. Like, he's not even close this year because he's shooting 36% from three. He's shooting a really good three ball. But then he's starting to really figure out his place where he's not going to take a ton of shots because you got a lot of guys that can create on this team with Denny, Sharp, Scoot, Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant when he's healthy is going to get his shots. So he doesn't need shots to be effective. But in the right moments, that's when he's aggressive. And it's been really good for this offense because there was times his rookie season where defenses would stop guarding him at the three-point line. They'd clog things up in the paint and make it harder on other players on the team. Now, Kamara makes you pay for doing that. So
It's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. Last night too, I asked Coach Billups about this because Anthony Simons, who I want to talk about next. Offense has been. He's still had his nights, but he's had some rough nights too. Not to what to be expected from him offensively. But one thing I do respect, man, is at least I've noticed this, and please correct me if I'm wrong. I want to see what your eye has seen too. But I feel like over the last few weeks, I have seen a much more consistent defensive effort from Ant. Like he's still going to get beat, but he's fighting through picks. He's manning up his guy. He got switched on bigger guys, tried not to give up any ground. And when we asked Billups about it yesterday, he said that he admitted, he's like, he's not a lockdown defender. He might never be. But all I ask him to do is hustle, and he has been hustling on that side. Have you been seeing some of that same stuff from him?
yeah, believe it or not, I've actually been defending his effort for a couple of seasons now. I never thought it was much of an effort problem with Simons. Of course, he has his moments, and especially when you're having losing seasons, there's going to be times where you get down as a player, energy gets down, and you have a lapse. But I think ultimately he's a small guard, and it's tough for small guards to defend at the NBA level, right? His tools, unfortunately, on the defensive end, don't do him any favors. But it's fine because he can score and he can create at times for others. So that's why you have all the other defensive pieces. But I think effort-wise, it's never really been a problem with effort. It's just been, he just doesn't have the best defensive tools. And there's a couple technique things that maybe he could do a little bit better, right? I think he kind of has the problem where when guys drive at him, he opens the door, I think, a little bit too much instead of taking the drive in the chest. There's probably a couple technique things there that could be improved, but that's not effort. And I fully agree. Like, you just want your guys to compete. You're going to have some guys that are your lockdown defenders that can lock down stars, but then you're going to have other guys who need to put the ball in the basket who aren't as good defensively. As long as they compete, as long as they hustle, that's what matters.
Yeah, and going back to Scoot then for a second, I want to get your thoughts on him defensively because you talked about him being a pretty good defender. I think he's a lot better on that side than people thought. But you said that Ant's tools don't necessarily lend to him being a good defender. I mean, the athleticism does, but you're right, like nothing else does. As where I think some of Scoot's tools actually open the door for him to be a better defender down the road because unlike Ant, in my opinion, he's a stronger player, and I've noticed that he can defend a lot bigger than he is. So he's got switched on forwards and doesn't concede a lot of ground. He ends up getting beat a lot of the time, but I think it's still that learning process. But I see that there's still a defensive climb from Scoot with the tools that he has.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the thing his rookie year was, he had a lot of mistakes that you would expect rookies to make, right? And he has the tools. He's super strong. I don't know what his wingspan is, but he seems like he has long arms, which helps defensively. So it's just improving the mistakes that he's making. And this is what I say for all young players. It's fine if you make mistakes if you learn from them. It's fine if you make mistakes if you turn it into a positive, and you can turn mistakes into a positive if you work on them. So I think that's what we've seen from Scoot so far defensively this year, and it's been a lot of fun to watch him on that side of the ball.
Absolutely. This is Torrey Jones of Blazers Uprise. You can catch them on YouTube. Just get on over to YouTube and type in Blazers Uprise. I'm so used to saying get on over to YouTube and type in Rip City Radio, but hey, it's 2025. You can Uprise on one phone, Rip City on the other, on your computer, on your TV. And the fact is, I know that there's a lot of people who do that because I've seen chatters in your chat and my chat at the same time. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to get Torrey's thoughts on the topic that's on everyone's mind right now. Lottery or play-in? What's going on as the Blazers are currently 2 games back? We'll get Torrey's thoughts on it when we come back here on Courtside Monday on your home of the Blazers, Rip City Radio 620. Michael Shacker with the Rammstein. Look at him. Look at him in his music pulls. All right, welcome back into Courtside Monday on a Thursday. Special edition today, moving some stuff around so I could get my man Tori on. Tori, who I've been not associated with, but known through social most of the time. Talking Blazers, probably battling because that's what fans do. But I was like, I got to get the guy in here because one thing about him I do know from his social is he knows ball. And he's already proven it through 2 segments that he knows ball. So don't drop the ball in the third and final segment and just, make me eat my words here. But no, I appreciate you taking the time, Tori. It's wonderful. And you've been great so far. But now I want to talk about the question that every single radio show that I've listened to today has been talking about it. It was a topic last night. It's all over social. Blazers are 2 games back. Are they going to make it to the play-in? Is it beneficial? Like, what are they going to do? I mean, I get it. Mathematically, they're still there. I still don't think gut, even though Dallas is ravaged, I don't know if they lose that spot because that schedule for Phoenix over the next 2 weeks is nasty.
Yeah.
Nasty. And it feels so weird to say that a team with Kevin Durant and Devin Booker is not good, but they're not a good basketball team right now. Like, they should be so much better than they are. I mean, under 500, what are we doing in Phoenix, man? So what's your gut telling you? Are the Blazers going to have a play-in game in Sacramento, or are they going hitting the casino because they're playing the lottery?
Oh, it's such a tough question because the Blazers' next 5 games is really tough. You got Denver, Boston, Cleveland. There's a road game at the New York Knicks, who, of course, just beat the Blazers on a buzzer beater here.
Right.
Sucks the Blazers didn't win that game because then you'd only be 1 game back and every game counts. But shout out to Mikal Bridges for hitting that insane 3, man. But I think it will come down to Phoenix and Portland. I think with Dallas's injuries,
right,
they might get to a point where they might have to suit up an injured player just to have the 8 required players suited up for a game.
Wasn't that the famous Warrior game in Portland, like Steph Curry's rookie year, where they suited up a few, but they only had like 5 bodies to go, and then someone got hurt. I look it up on YouTube. I
remember that game. I remember watching that game, man. That was something else, So maybe you get another Chris Kaman lying on the bench situation because you got a clear bench for them.
Right.
It sucks. I feel bad for Mavs fans, everything that they've been through, and I don't normally feel bad for many fan bases because as a sports fan myself, I've been through some tough stuff. But
see, you'll appreciate this. I tell people, they're like, "Oh, you're a Niner fan. What do you have to complain about?" I go, I lived through having Ken Dorsey as my quarterback. Just calm down for a minute. It's not just because we're good right now doesn't mean we've been good for the last 20 years. Yeah, we have 5 Super Bowls, but relax, okay?
5 Super Bowls, but I didn't see any of them. All I've seen is 3 Super Bowl losses. So yeah, it is
right?
It is pretty rough. But yeah, I think the Mavs are going to fall apart down the stretch here. I mean, they're just
and they
so
very well could. I mean, they kind of
injured.
already are, right? So
yeah. So apparently Anthony Davis wants to return for them, but I don't know if they want him to come back. I think they're set on getting a lottery pick. At this point, it's like, why bring AD back? You're going to end up in the play-in, and you're so shorthanded. What's in it for Dallas, right? With Kyrie out for the year, all these players out for the year. Whereas for a team like Portland, it can be seen as the next step progressing out of the rebuild towards being a more competitive team. So I think Dallas falls off. I think it will come down to Phoenix and Portland. And Portland's schedule in the next 5 games is tough. Portland's schedule in April lightens up. They got a game against Toronto, Chicago. I don't have the schedule in front of me, but
they have a road trip that goes Sacramento, New York. But then they got Atlanta, Toronto, Chicago, San Antonio, Utah before their final 2 home games against a team in Golden State and Los Angeles who might be locked in. And, I mean, there is a situation where you're still playing for seeding, but you could run into a situation where those last 8 games are pretty easy.
Yeah, so I think for the Blazers, you just have to keep pace with Phoenix over the next 5 games because Phoenix has an extremely tough schedule. Portland is 2 games back of them. Phoenix right now is currently tied with the Dallas Mavericks for 10th overall for that last play-in spot.
Yeah, Phoenix the rest of the way, by the way, for those of you who don't know. Cleveland tomorrow. Then they got Milwaukee, Boston, Minnesota, Houston, Milwaukee, Boston, New York, Golden State, Oklahoma, San Antonio, and Sacramento.
That's a gauntlet.
One team on that list who's not a playoff team, and that's San Antonio. That's wild tough.
Yeah, so in the next 5 games, that's the tough stretch of the schedule for Portland if you can remain 2 games back and then get into April with some of those easier opponents that are probably going to be tanking. Although in the East, you got teams with awful records that could still make the play-in, so I don't know how they'll treat that. Portland has some wins hopefully on the horizon against some easier teams, while Phoenix, their schedule is tough throughout the rest of the season. So I think for Portland, you just got to find a way to win a game at home versus Boston, Cleveland, or Denver. You don't have to win them all. Phoenix is probably going to lose a lot of these games because they have a tough schedule. You just got to keep touch with them until April. The schedule lightens up. You should be able to pick up some wins there while Phoenix still has a really tough schedule. And that's going to be the recipe for the Blazers trying to make this run. If the Blazers enter April 4 games back, it's probably not going to be doable. So I think we'll know in about 5 games whether or not the Blazers have either a very serious chance of making it happen or a very minuscule one.
Yeah, it's a good breakdown. Good breakdown. My final question for you, as we're running up against the clock here, as I pull up your Twitter to find all the receipts of all the awful things we say, it is: were you disappointed last night? Because your tweet, if Denny doesn't drop 40 tonight, I'll be disappointed. Were you disappointed? Were you okay with the 30, 16, and 8?
See, I feel like people take that the wrong way. They're like, oh, because he didn't score 40, I think he had a bad game. Like, no, man, I just want to see this dude dominate. Right. And when he comes out in the first half scoring 26 points or whatever it was, it's like, cool, I want to see this dude drop 50 because
exactly.
I think he's capable.
Right.
And he'll show it for a half where he'll just dominate a game. It's like, all right, I want to see this dude drop 40 or 50. So then when he comes out in the second half and has 5 points, it's like, dang, man. Dang, man, I just want to see 2 halves like that. And it's still, the thing is, he was so good in the first half. It was still a great game. 31 points, 60 boards, 8 assists. Great game. Great game. I always like when players drop 40 or 50 points, though, especially when it's somebody like Denny, because it can be seen as a breakout.
I don't mind going from 50-point watch to triple-double watch. It's good either way. Hey, thanks so much, man. This is wonderful. You did great.
Thanks
this
for having
was
me.
Torrey Jones. You guys can find him on social at Torrey Jones YT. YouTube. I'm putting it all together. And of course, Blazers Uprise YT as well. Make sure if you haven't already, go hit him up, like, share, subscribe. He's doing some wonderful work there. Blazers will be back at it tomorrow. Tip off at 7 o'clock against the Denver Nuggets. Unfortunately, I'm out, but it'll be the last game I will miss this year. Brendan Slaughter will have Blazers game day for you starting at 5 o'clock. Once again, Torrey Jones, thank you so much. And it is courtside, so I got to end it the